Hey, thanks for being here. There's something sacred about making space to create, to slow down, to remember, to let God meet you in the process. That's what this is, a place where we are reminded that we are kept, held by a Father who knows us, sees us, and chose us before the foundation of the world. This week we're starting something new, a series, The Wonders of I Am. Walking through the plagues of Egypt, not as disaster stories, but as theological confrontations, because that's what they are, a declaration of who holds dominion over everything Egypt thought it owned. We begin at the river, so let's sit with that together. Imagine you are Egyptian, not a soldier, not a priest, just an ordinary person. A farmer, a tradesman, someone who wakes before sunrise and goes to the river the way you have every morning of your life. The Nile is not scenery to you, it is everything. It's the reason your crops grow in a desert. It's the reason your civilization exists at all. Without it, there is nothing. No fertility, no food, no future, just sand. And the God responsible for all of this is Hapi. Hapi was not a minor deity. He was among the most revered in the entire Egyptian pantheon. A god of abundance, fertility, and cosmic balance. Every year, when the Nile flooded its banks and deposited rich black silt across the surrounding land, that was Hapi. That was his gift. That was the annual proof that he was present, active, favorably disposed towards his people. To be Egyptian was to be in relationship with the Nile, and to be in relationship with the Nile was to depend on Hapi. But the Nile was more than that. It was also understood to be the bloodstream of Osiris, the god of the afterlife, the ruler of the dead, the one who held the keys to what came after this life. The river carried life above and below. It sustained the living and connected them to the dead. In the Egyptian imagination, the Nile was not just water, it was the circulatory system of the universe. This is what Moses walked up to. Exodus chapter 7. God speaks to Moses. Go to Pharaoh in the morning as he is going out to the water. Stand on the bank of the Nile to meet him. And Moses lifts his staff, and the water turns to blood. I want you to picture that moment. The river turns red, not rust-colored, not murky, blood. The fish begin to die. The smell rises, not the smell of river water, not even the smell of decay, but the thick, iron-heavy stench of congealing blood under an Egyptian sun. The water that was life is now death. The god of fertility is hemorrhaging. And the people are standing at the banks of the thing they built their entire world around, watching it bleed out. For a brief, terrible moment, I imagined there was a kind of dark excitement, because if the Nile is Osiris's bloodstream, and the Nile has turned to blood, maybe Osiris is rising. Maybe this strange confrontation between Pharaoh's god and the god of these Hebrew slaves has summoned something ancient and powerful. Maybe the god of the afterlife is about to settle this. And then the fish surfaced. The crops began to fail as the compromised soil poisoned everything it touched. And the stench confirmed what the sight was already saying. This is not Osiris rising. This is Hapi dying. The The God of life has been exposed as something that can bleed, something that can be touched, something that when I am decides to make a point cannot hold its own water. This was not random destruction. Every plague that followed this one was aimed at a specific Egyptian deity, a precise surgical dismantling of an entire cosmology. God was not throwing disasters at Egypt indiscriminately. He was making an argument, a theological argument, delivered not in language but in power. The argument was this: everything you think belongs to your gods belongs to me. Moses was writing for an audience who had lived as Egyptians, who had breathed Egyptian air and absorbed Egyptian cosmology and grown up in a world where the Nile was sacred and Hapi was real, and the gods of the land were simply the way things were. He was not just recording history, he was making a theological case. Genesis, written in this context, was a direct counter-narrative to the Egyptian creation story. In the beginning, God, not the gods, not the river, not the sun, not the cosmic forces and natural powers that Egypt had been worshipping for centuries. God, one singular, all-sufficient God. And the plagues were the proof. Leviticus 17:11 reads, "For the life of the flesh is in the blood," not a metaphor, a statement of biological and spiritual reality. Life is in the blood, which means when the blood congeals, when it thickens and stagnates and begins to rot in the heat, what you are watching is life leaving. The Nile's blood congealing was the visible picture of what Egypt's gods actually were: lifeless, unable to sustain what they claimed to own. Their blood goes bad, their powers run out, their promises of life curdled in the sun. But Isaiah 53:5 points somewhere else entirely. He was wounded for our transgressions. He was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement for our peace was upon him, and by his stripes we are healed. There is another blood, shed not in defeat but in intention, not coagulation in the heat of an Egyptian morning, but poured out with purpose, for iniquities, for peace, for redemption. Romans chapter 3 verse 5. God presented Christ as a propitiation through faith in his blood. Ephesians 1:7. In him we have redemption through his blood, the forgiveness of sins. 1 Peter 2:24. He himself bore our sins in his own body on the tree, that we, having died to sins, might live for righteousness, by whose stripes you were healed. The blood of Hapi congealed. The blood of Osiris was mythology, a story told to manage the fear of death, with no power to actually address it. But the blood of Christ does not congeal. It does not stagnate. It does not rot under the weight of what it was asked to carry. Because he is not a river god, or a death god, or a force of nature that can be touched and diminished. He is I am, the source of life, and his blood is alive because he is alive, yesterday, today, and forever the same. His blood does not congeal. He is life, and life does not rot. This is the first of the wonders there are more to come. But until next week, stay blessed and stay kept.